Hello, and today we're going to be looking at how to use the TI-30XS Multiview Scientific Calculator to solve problems in the Study Island lessons in Algebra 1 titled Evaluate Functions and Simplify and Evaluate Expressions. So these first problems that we're going to look at are examples of problems that you could see in either one of these lessons. And what they are is they're substitution or evaluation questions. So here you're given this function and you're asked to find what is this function equal to when you replace the x with a 5. It asks you that in function notation, so that's why there's this f of x and this f of 5. But you can see the 5 is in the same place in the parentheses as the x, and so that means in this expression part here, I'm going to be replacing that x with a 5. And I can use the calculator to do that for me. So anytime that I'm substituting, you need to put that number in parentheses. If you don't put it in parentheses, you run a high chance of getting the problem wrong. So here it has an x cubed, so that means I'm going to have a 5 cubed. So I'm going to put that 5 in parentheses. Then use my caret button for a 3, then use my arrow button to get out of the exponent, and then I have minus, so making sure I'm using my minus button and not my negative button, 3 parenthesis, and now I have another x, so I'm going to put a 5 in parentheses right there, just like that, and then a plus 4, and then the end parenthesis, and then I press enter, and there's my answer, 98. So here is a quick way to check yourself after you've worked it out, or if you get stumped and on a part, you can go to your calculator to use it, and I know right away that my answer is C. So let's look at another problem. Here's number 2. Number 2, it asks me to find this when x is negative 3. Now remember, especially when these are negative numbers that we're evaluating with, we need to use parentheses. So I'm going to go ahead and clear this. And I look first and the x is cubed, so that means I'm going to have a negative 3 in parentheses cubed first. And I was made sure to use my negative button down here, not my minus button, or else the calculator won't know what to do. So then I'm going to use my caret button to cube it, my right arrow to be done with the exponent, and then I have a plus x squared. So that means I'm going to have a plus, and then instead of the x in parentheses, I'm going to type in a negative 3, and that's squared. So I type my square button, and then it's minus 15. And I press enter, and I see that my answer is negative 33, which is choice C. Here's another one that has a fraction. And so that means we can still do this problem, even though it looks super crazy. We can do it using this fraction button here, the n over d. So I'm going to go ahead and press that, and up pops a fraction. And so I just need to fill in the top and the bottom. So right now my cursor is blinking in the numerator, the top. So I'm going to look at my numerator in the problem. I have 13 parentheses, and then I have an x. But instead of writing x, I'm going to write the 5, and I'm going to make sure to put that 5 in parentheses. So I'm going to parenthesis 5 parenthesis, and then it's plus 25 end parentheses. So I just go ahead and type that, plus 25 end parentheses, and I have the top part typed in. Now I'm going to look at the bottom of the fraction, the denominator. So I'm going to use my down arrow to scroll down to the bottom, and now I see my cursor is blinking there, so I know I'm in the right place. And then I see first I have an x squared, so that means I'm going to put the 5 in parentheses and square it. So parenthesis 5 parentheses squared. And then I have a plus 50, and then I see I have another x, so I'm going to put a parenthesis 5 there. And then I'm going to use my right arrow to get out of the fraction, and I have it all typed in now, so I just press enter, and the calculator does all the work. It simplifies it down for me. However, it is going to give me my answer as an improper fraction. The answers are mixed fractions. So that means I'm just going to have to go one more step and use this button here that is converting between improper and mixed numbers. So it's there in the green. Because it's in the green, that means I'm going to have to press the second button first. So I'm going to press second and then the conversion. And you can see it brings down the answer. And there's the conversion, and I press enter, And there's my answer as a mixed number. It's 1 and 23 over 55, which is choice A. Here's one with a square root and a fraction, and we can do this one too. So I'm going to go ahead and clear this so it's not confusing. And here, the square root is above my squared button in green, so I'm going to have to use my second green button, and then there's my square root. And under that square root I have a fraction, so now I'm going to press the fraction button. And you can see now I have a fraction under a square root to fill in. So the top of my fraction is a 4, so I'm going to go ahead and type 4, and that's it. So I'm going to scroll down to the bottom using the bottom arrow. And then in the bottom of the fraction, I have 1,372x, but instead of typing x, I'm going to type a 7 in parentheses. So I'm going to go ahead and do 1372, and then my parenthesis, 7 parenthesis. And that's it. So I'm just going to use my right arrow to press it twice to get out of all of that. And then I'm going to press enter. And you can see it gives it to me as a decimal. So I'm going to try to convert this decimal to a fraction to see if I get one of the answers that is given to me. So to convert a fraction to a decimal, this F arrows D is the one I'm going to use, and you see it's in green, so I'm going to have to press second table to get the conversion. So it brings down the whole decimal, and then I see it's converting it. And I press enter, and there's my answer, 1 over 49. So that means D is going to be my final answer. Next, I have multiple variables, but they tell me what each of these variables is equal to, so I'm just going to have to keep track of which number I'm substituting in. So go ahead and clear it, and I see I have parenthesis 1/5 parenthesis. So I'm going to put parenthesis, and then I'm going to go to my fraction button, type a 1, down arrow to the bottom, type a 5, and I'm going to have to right arrow out of the fraction and put my end parenthesis. And that's times A. My A number is 10, so I'm going to have, you can put times here, or you can just do the parenthesis 10, end parenthesis. And that's minus parenthesis 1/4. So I'm going to press minus, not negative, make sure I get the minus, and then a parenthesis fraction button, 1, down to the bottom, 4, and then I need to make sure that I right arrow out of that fraction when I'm done with the fraction, and then I press the end parenthesis. And then I see a B, my B number is 4, so I'm going to use parentheses to substitute that in. And then I have a plus 1/3 in parentheses. So parenthesis fraction button, I press 1 in the top, scroll down to the bottom, press 3, right arrow out of that fraction, end the parenthesis, and then I have times C finally, and that's 9, so I'm going to put a 9 in parentheses after that and press enter. And it tells me that that answer is 4, so B is going to be my final answer. These next problems are only in the simplify and evaluate expressions part of Study Island. And these are just expressions that you can type in straight into the calculator. Not all of the problems in these two categories are going to be like this, but a chunk of them are. So there's a chunk that you can do straight on the calculator to check yourself, and that way you can know if you're getting it wrong or right. And it's a good idea to do it on paper and in the calculator, because you could do a typing error in the calculator. So it's a good idea to, if you get the same answer both places, then you know pretty sure that you got the right answer. So here I'm just going to type this in the way it looks. So I'm going to have a parenthesis, 5, and then I have an exponent of 4, so I'm going to use my caret button to go up to the 4, and I press 4, and now this parenthesis is not part of the exponent, so I'm going to have to arrow out of that exponent, end the parenthesis, and then I have another exponent, so I'm going to have to caret again, plus 5, and then before I press division, I'm going to have to right arrow out of that exponent, then press division, and then I have a 5, and then I'm going to press the caret button, type in 20, right arrow out of everything, and press enter. And I can see that that answer all reduces down to 1, which is choice D. This next problem is simplifying square roots that are being divided by the fraction bar. So this problem's all one big fraction, so I'm going to go ahead and press the fraction button so I can start to fill it in. In the top I have 6 square root of 6 square root of 18. So I'm going to type in a 6 and then a second square root, and now I'm typing the 6 underneath. That's all that's under that first square root, so I'm going to have to right arrow out of that, and then I'm going to press second square root again to get the second one, and press 18. I have the top all filled in, so I'm going to scroll down to the bottom. The bottom is a square root of 36, so I'm going to press second square root 36. And that's it. I can right arrow until the cursor is blinking at the end, so I'm completely out of the fraction and the square roots. And I'm going to press enter, and I see that that all simplifies down to 6 square root of 3, which is going to be choice A. And number 8 here is similar. So once again, these are, when you have these problems that are just numbers and square roots, you can do that solely on the calculator if you forget how to do it, or you can use the calculator to check yourself. So you're going to press the fraction button because it's all one big fraction, and then on the top I'm going to have 18 square roots of 12, and then I'm going to arrow down to the bottom and I have 2 square roots of 6, right arrow till that's blinking at the end, press enter, and I see that that all simplifies down to 9 square roots of 2. So that is all of the problems in those two categories, evaluate functions and simplify evaluate expressions, that you can do straight on this calculator if you get stuck. So I'm glad that you took the time to listen today, and I hope you learned something new.